JamesAllen.com is the online destination to easily design a customized engagement ring and save up to 50% compared to traditional stores. You pick a diamond, whether it's lab-created or earth-created, James Allen has over 200,000 conflict-free stones. Then you pick your ring setting and metal. And if you need some help, they have real-time diamond consultations available, where an expert can walk you through it all. Get 25% off your order at JamesAllen.com, code podcast. That's JamesAllen.com, code podcast.
You've discovered your link to GoPowercat.com's Powercat Podcast. Now, here's your host, GoPowercat.com publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Courtney Messingham and Chris Kleiman go way back. I mean, way back to Waterloo, Iowa. Growing up there, playing on teams that played each other, eventually coaching together. And in 2017, Messingham was hired on at North Dakota State to be Kleiman's offensive coordinator, and he had 2 terrific years in Fargo calling plays for the juggernaut that was North Dakota State football under Chris Kleiman, and continues. And then he came to Kansas State in 2019 to be offensive coordinator here. Now, being in the Big 12 was nothing new to Mess. He had been at Iowa State from 2009 to 2013, eventually being offensive coordinator there before ending up at Indiana, Montana State, North Dakota State, the life of an assistant football coach. Welcome to the Powercat Sources Podcast, the GoPowercat.com podcast in which we talk to the people we consider our sources. In this football season, we're picking them off one by one, talking to the Kansas State football coaches. We started with Chris Kleiman, and we're working through the assistants and some staff members as we proceed through the season. But we're 2/3 done with that season, and we have not done Kansas State offensive coordinator Courtney Messingham. Now, a lot of fans are turning their wrath on Courtney Messingham, maybe the nicest guy I've ever met in the coaching profession. And I got to tell you, I've met a lot of nice guys. I know that the offense isn't producing a lot. I get that. And I certainly don't back away from asking Courtney Messingham about some of the problems the offense is having in the third quarter, with turnovers, with just generally moving the ball at times. And I'll be blunt here, though. He doesn't have a whole lot to work with on the offensive side of the ball this season. A rebuilt offensive line. He lost a senior quarterback. His receivers have been thinned out for different reasons, but they're not performing up to what they should be. And at running back, he's leaning on a true freshman that is already getting an absurd amount of attention from opposing defenses. And oh yeah, he had a senior tight end transfer in, Briley Moore, who was a revelation, who's been a great asset to this team, and he got hurt at West Virginia and didn't play in last week's 20-18 loss to Oklahoma State. Yeah, things haven't gone as well as one would hope on the offensive side of the ball. But just like everyone wants the backup quarterback when the starter makes some mistakes, everyone wants to fire the offensive coordinator when things aren't perfect. You call plays, players execute plays, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But mostly good offensive coordinators try to build upon things and find things that work in key moments of the game, and that's what Mess did throughout that Oklahoma State game because not much was working. They ran Will Howard an awful lot, more than they wanted to, and eventually set up a huge pass play to Sammy Wheeler based off of other play calling that they had been doing throughout the game. Kansas State's offense is in the hands of a true freshman quarterback. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be problems that you didn't expect to have when you had senior Skylar Thompson under center. But Kansas State's 4-3. They're 4-2 in the Big 12. They've got 3 more games to go heading into this off week. And we'll see if Will Howard and the offense can progress down the road a little bit farther before they go to Ames in 2 Saturdays to play the Cyclones. A really crucial game if you want to look at the Big 12 standings and the pecking order and kind of the power ratings of the conference. Beat Iowa State 2 years in a row, and you've sent a pretty clear message that you are in the top half of this conference, if not the top 3 or 4. So it's a big game. But it's also big for Mess because he coached at Iowa State and was honestly fired at Iowa State as an offensive coordinator, and he's back in the conference, and he's back making his mark. And a lot of what Kansas State does down the stretch this season, they got the off week, they go to Iowa State, they go to Baylor, then they play host to Texas to conclude the regular season, will depend on Kansas State's offense and coordinator Courtney Messingham. I don't shy away from asking him anything, although I have to be honest, I forgot to ask him about the two-point conversion. Still, I attempted to address the questions that you as fans might have. You get to hear what Courtney Messingham has to say. And you also get to hear that he doesn't shy away from answering any questions. And now let's bring in Kansas State's offensive coordinator and tight ends and fullbacks coach, Courtney Messingham. Coach, that was a frustrating one. Couldn't quite get over the hump once Oklahoma State took the lead.
Yeah, and felt like we had opportunities. Really felt like the first quarter we had opportunities to score a couple touchdowns. Instead, got 2 field goals. Felt like in the third quarter we put ourselves in 3rd and short, but didn't convert. And it wasn't like we had 1 3rd and 14 or so, but the other 2 were 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3 type things. You got to move the chains and keep their offense off the field, but more importantly, keep our offense on the field and go down and score. Because you knew at some point they were going to, they got too good a running game and too many guys that can make big plays that we needed to score and keep the ball when we had opportunity to.
Well, a couple things there. First of all, let's start with those red zone opportunities that keep coming up short as of late in these last 2 games. What exactly do you think is going wrong there?
Well, I think a little twofold. Example, some of the fly sweeps, that stuff that we ran this past week, we made an adjustment after the first quarter of who we were reading, and it helped us, and it got obviously, Will had a number of long runs, and we had a number of third down conversions, and even the last touchdown we scored were off of that same play, and it was an adjustment we made after the first quarter. And unfortunately down there was 2 different times where we ran the ball a little bit east and west, some sideways stuff that they held us to a 1-yard gain or a no gain and put us in 2nd and long, and then got ourselves to 3rd down and then didn't convert, didn't make a play. So
how much of this is you've got youth in the backfield and inexperience along the offensive line just trying to find their way right now?
To be honest with you, I think they are finding their way. I will give some credit to both West Virginia and Oklahoma State. Both of them are extremely good defenses, and for the most part, they're older defenses, guys that have played a lot of Big 12 football. So, I feel like we do have to keep coming along. We do have to keep getting better because you're going to play good teams. I mean, Texas is going to have great players. Iowa State's got really good players. Baylor, I don't know what they have returning as much because they lost a number of seniors last year, but both Iowa State and Texas have a bunch of guys coming back defensively that played a bunch of football last year.
I know this Baylor can't have a better defensive line than it had last year. That was ridiculous.
No, God, I hope not.
They were so good. Those third quarters, what's going wrong there? I mean, if I'm correct, you 3-and-outed throughout the entire quarter.
Yeah, unfortunately, like I said, with third quarter, we put ourselves in really good 3rd and manageable 2 of the 3 times, and unfortunately did not execute and didn't move the chains. I go back to the KU game, and it's the best third quarter that we've played in my time here. And somebody would say, well, that was against KU. Well, they're on the schedule. People are on the schedule. It doesn't matter if we're lining up against Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Arkansas State. We need to come out and perform, and part of that comes back to executing. And it doesn't matter if it's against KU or if it's against Oklahoma State. We need to do a better job of just getting our job done.
How is Will Howard progressing in the offensive coordinator's eyes?
I'm extremely happy with him, and I think he's progressed immensely in just understanding the why. And you say, what do you mean by the why? I'm talking about our protection schemes as an example. Why do we want to slide the O-line this way? Or why do we want to put the running back blocking this guy? And him really grasping and understanding those things. And understanding when Coach Klein's talking to him after a series about, did you see the safety roll this way? Did you realize it was cover 1, or did you realize it was what people call Tampa 2? and his ability to visualize that and spit back things that are telling you, okay, he does understand it. His answers, his verbiage back to Coach Klein, you know that he's got mentally he's got a picture of what's going on out there on the field, and that's impressive for a true freshman.
It is. Is this almost unfair to him to get thrown into the fire without a spring football, without much of the summer, and he just gets put out there?
My guess is he would not say it's unfair. My guess is he would say it's fortunate opportunity. But the expectation of a college quarterback, unfortunately, it doesn't matter if you're a freshman or a senior, producing and taking care of the football and managing the game is a huge part of your job, and I know I feel like he's doing a nice job handling it. Obviously, we've got to keep getting better, but I'm happy with where he's at in his development.
Quarterbacks make mistakes. I mean, I watched that Baylor-Iowa State game. Brock Purdy, pretty darn good quarterback, have 3 interceptions, a lot of mistakes in that first half. Is Will is he good at handling these things, or does he let them linger a little bit?
No, I think the best example is the drive right after his fumble.
Yeah.
The one time they had to let it linger, and you got to move on. And I feel like he understands it. If I bust my tail, if I do everything that I can to prepare myself to be successful, and my teammates see me doing that, that they will stay behind me and stay with me, and I'll feel good about myself. And I think he does do that. He works as hard as anybody as far as getting in the film room. He works as hard as anybody as far as wanting to understand what the offense is and how he fits in it. So, I think he's handled things well. I guess what I'm trying to get at.
Speaking of that fumble, how did you handle that? I know I didn't handle it well. It was just almost like everything happened in slow motion. You're like, how did all of that happen in sequence to be that bad?
I think my comment was something to the effect of, you got to be kidding me that it went right to him. And unfortunately, because of the action of the play, all the rest of our players are over on the other side of the field. And you see Deuce Vaughn sprinting down, trying to get down there to give it at least an opportunity to try to get a tackle. But we just didn't have anybody in that vicinity, and it spit right out to the guy where it hit him basically on the stride. And unfortunately, that's the way it ended up.
That's football, man. That's just so football. Yeah. That happens against you, and meanwhile, you get a sack fumble that an offensive lineman just drops right on, falls at his feet. That's just the chance of football.
Craziest thing ever is, and obviously where the press box is, the view of Wyatt's sack, and all of a sudden that old lineman kind of like chasing behind Wyatt, and the damn ball comes right to him. It's like, how fortunate are you, and unfortunate from our standpoint. My
dad was a former high school football coach, and he always said they put points on the end of that ball for a reason. They didn't want it to bounce the right way. Let me ask you about some more personnel. What has Bradley Moore meant for this program?
I think he's just done 2 things. He's done a great job from a leadership standpoint. I think one of the first things that Sammy Wheeler said to Coach Kleiman was, man, I'm fired up to have him because I'm going to be able to learn things from him, because his personality lends himself to being able to interact really, really well with his teammates. And obviously he's got extremely good ball skills. And the thing I'm the most impressed with, to be honest with you, is he's not a bit afraid to block. He'll put his face on you and do the things that we ask him to do from the run game standpoint as well. So we've been fortunate to have him in our program.
He just seems like, I don't want to say godsend, that's too strong, but with an offense now that lacks experience and your senior quarterback goes out, to have a guy like that, even though he's missed a game and a half now, is just invaluable.
It really is. And I don't know if you saw it on the TV or those types of things, but he's one of the first guys talking to Will Howard between series. When Will's coming off the sideline, whether it was the fumble or whether it was when he scored, he's one of the first guys talking to him, and that just means a lot from our culture standpoint, that a young man comes here in a short time frame because of the COVID situation, has fit right into understanding that it's about people and relationships and being in it for each other, and that's why he's a great fit.
Deuce Vaughn, I think you should take some genetic material and take it up to Vet Med and have him cloned about 3 times. I mean, he's just a consummate K-State football player, and the fact, not because he's a good player, but the way he handles himself.
I always get nervous when you put freshmen in a position where they have to speak with the media. But Deuce and Will, those guys are phenomenal at not getting overwhelmed by the position that they're in. Mm-hmm. And I've been really happy with both those guys. And Deuce, obviously, more than Will from the standpoint of he's gotten some national recognition. He's had some big-time plays that he's made against big-time opponents, and he's done a great job of taking it in stride and understanding that none of it would happen if the guys around him weren't helping him make plays.
What have defenses been doing to take Deuce away a little bit more than he was earlier in the season?
Well, I think a little bit, as an example, Oklahoma State, they played a lot of what I would consider to be kind of a bracket coverage where they've got really 3 guys over 2 guys, meaning that they've got 3 guys that are reading basically what your 2 receivers do on that side. So as an example, the X receiver and the tailback, they got 3 guys covering 2. And actually what Oklahoma State ended up doing is they ended up saying, well, heck with that. We're just going to put the corner one-on-one with the wide out, and then had the safety and the number 20, their inside linebacker, 2-on-1 on Deuce. So the ability to quote, take him out of the game, they were able to do a good job of really IDing where he was at and having 2 guys matching him.
This is a kid in his 7th college football game, and teams are doing that to him. What's that say?
Well, all you got to do is look back at our first 6-7 games, and you're going to see not all, but a lot of the explosive plays we've had. 22's been involved in it.
Yeah. And you haven't had enough of those. I'm just going to ask you bluntly, what is going on with the receiver position?
Well, 2 things, I think. One, all of them got to continue to stay healthy. And 2, the guy that they were used to getting the ball thrown to them from is not playing right now. Unfortunately, Gill has an injury that puts him out, and Malik's had a few things that have kept him from being able to play full time. Sebastian has been kind of the warrior that keeps going out there all the time and has had some really good games, but then had games where maybe didn't get as many targets and didn't play as well. But he shows up every single week. That's for darn sure. And then as a collective group, we've not been in a position probably where we've thrown it as much as we would have if Skyler was throwing that thing around.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like everything that could go wrong has gone wrong with the receivers. You got someone that leaves, Joaquin Gill, who is, such an important part of that because he just made plays, injures himself. It's been unfortunate to watch. And I think DJ Render sums up pandemic football for me. Here's a guy that was a receiver, then he was a safety, then he was a receiver, and all of a sudden he's a receiver getting playing time. And having his opportunity present itself. And honestly, without the pandemic, I don't think that happens.
Yeah, and he's the perfect situation has happened for him to just take full advantage of opportunity to get on the field. And he's had some games where it was like, man, he got targeted 2, 3, 4 times, and you'd say that guy wasn't in your top 7 when the season kicked off because he was a DB. So he's taken full advantage of it. And the one thing that I would tell you is his teammates know he'll do whatever he can to figure out how to get on the field. And that's a phenomenal thing.
The offensive line after Arkansas State could have driven me to drink. I don't know about you, but they've come a long ways, and they're healthier now. I mean, they're kind of settled into some spots. How much better are they?
Well, they've come a long ways, partly because, knock on wood, they've all been able to stay in practice. They've all gotten legitimate playing time in games. But sometimes people don't realize that with the close contact COVID situation, a young man maybe is missing for 2 weeks because he's not not sick, but just not able to go practice. And people don't realize that sometimes. And everybody wants to think, well, it's still football, and they know their drills, and they know the work they should be doing, and they know that, no, you got to work as a group of more than just 5. You got to work with the tight ends, you got to work with the fullbacks, you got to work with those other 4 offensive linemen. And, I happen to like to play golf quite a bit. And if I take 2 months, 3 months off, 2 weeks off, generally I'm not going to play nearly as well as if I played every day. And people think that now they'll just throw the ball out there and they'll be able to do their job, but practice means a lot, and getting reps means a lot.
Yeah, it does. And luckily, it looks like you got some young guys. Carver Willis has gotten on the field a little bit. Some other guys probably need a little more mass to get on the field, but you've got to feel good about your young offensive linemen.
Oh, I feel really good about Carver, and obviously he's a young man that if we can keep getting him more reps as this next 3 weeks go, will help. But Cooper Beebe is a great example of a young guy that not having spring ball, not having full-time go summer, full-time go 2-a-days / fall camp. I've been seeing him really grow as a player the last 2 and 3 weeks. And, one of the biggest things that I felt good about this past game was we were able to get under center and run the football downhill. Knock on wood, we've still done a decent job protecting the quarterback. Not great, but we've gotten much, much better. And our quarterback understands, hey, I can't hold this thing. I got to get the ball out of my hands. Because, like I said, knock on wood a little bit, but to this point, we've been fairly good at taking care of the quarterback from a sack standpoint.
Yeah, you have. Your fullbacks, another position you oversee. Mason Barda, Jax Deneen. Interesting combination. They kind of have offsetting skill sets, at least in my eye. Yeah,
they do. Jax, for being a fullback, really has good hands and really has good quick twitch. And we're able to get him the ball a little bit this past weekend. And then Mason just understands the whole thing. He can do it all. He just his skill set is definitely different than Jack's, but is mentally understanding things, understanding football. You can tell he's a coach's son because it doesn't take him long to pick things up. No,
Jax Deneen, he might be the most athletic, non-athletic looking person I've ever seen. He's really, when he's out there, I'm like, that kid's a football player? Oh, yeah, he is.
Well, I'm going to tell you, he looks a lot better at 235 or 240 than he did last year a couple times when he was about 261. He plays with a ton of energy, and he's physical. He's not one bit afraid of trying to lay the wood on somebody and plays a physical, hard-nosed, old-school fullback, that's for sure.
Hey, let's take a little pause right here, and we'll come back on the other side of this short break with more of my interview with Kansas State offensive coordinator Courtney Messingham.
The Powercat Podcast will be right back.
Is your January looking dry? Get some lotion. Get a humidifier. And better yet, get Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery. With Drizzly, you can compare prices across local stores to get the best price on a huge selection of drinks perfect for dry January. Every single time. Non-alcoholic wines? Have a look. Ready-made mocktails? Grab a straw and order them up. Beer without the alcohol? Yep, take your pick. You can find all of them here, in the app, in that phone that's in your hand. Could it be any simpler? Nope, not a chance. So shop for great deals on all your dry January beverages or other drinks and get them delivered to your door or blanket fort, maybe. Download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com. Must be 21 plus, not available in all locations. And don't forget to lotion up your elbows. They're looking a little dry.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month slows. Full terms at mintmobile.com.
We now send it back to the Powercat podcast.
Okay, I want to shift gears. You mentioned your golf game. How nice was it that the football gods gave you an off weekend, may I put parentheses around that, during the Masters? You get a fall Masters and an off weekend.
Yeah, well, I will be watching a bunch of golf this weekend. It's going to be crazy, though, watching it because of the pandemic. You will see things that you never knew were even there because of the crowds.
Right.
And now all of a sudden it'll just be grass and or trees and water, that type of thing, that normally there's a grandstand there. And I'm assuming they won't probably have any grandstands or those things hardly there, just the backdrop. So that'll be interesting to see the course layout. I saw a picture the other night where I'm assuming it was the 9th green and the 18th green, and you're like, oh, wow. They're right there, and there's the because you don't ever really get a chance to see how the layout of the course is.
Who's your guy? Is there anyone in particular that you are kind of a fan of?
Nah, I really like Spieth, but he hasn't been playing well enough that anybody will even see him probably this year. But he seems to always play well at the Masters, so he's probably got, if not, probably just one win, but he's probably been second 2 or 3 times. So I'll be interested to see how he plays.
Well, I just want you to know that in preparation for this interview, I actually looked at golf odds for the first time in my life, so that I was kind of caught up on who's the favorite. And
well, I bet you DeChambeau's probably the favorite.
He is.
Yeah,
he is, and plus it's the best name, so that's how I would bet it right there. But Dustin Johnson's up there with him. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I might even peek in a little bit myself. I'm not a big golf guy, although I'm from a golf family, but the Masters in the fall, I think that's going to be very interesting with the colors changing and everything. I think it'll be kind of fun. I don't know.
Well, I know one thing, that it won't be, the azaleas won't be in the look the same as they normally do, that's for sure.
They won't. They won't. And you probably haven't been able to sneak out onto the course anytime lately, even though it's nice weather and you're stuck in the office. What a mean boss you have.
Yeah, he's a pretty good boss. I'll leave it at that.
A year and a half in, where do you think you are as a program?
I think we're moving it in the right direction. I think that our players are starting to understand how much we want them to take ownership of who the program and what the program is. Obviously, there's a great tradition here, and there's been are you kidding me? Getting the opportunity to come here and coach at Kansas State's phenomenal. And we feel like for us to get back to some of the places that K-State has been over the last 15, 20, 25 years, it's got to be continually grown from within, and the players understanding that having ownership is huge, and truly understanding that it's about the process and it's about doing things right, not just on the field, but off the field, in the classroom, you name it, just doing things to be the right type of person.
I'm a person that likes to find positive and negatives, kind of gets me through sometimes. But it almost seems like the pandemic would reinforce that, taking ownership. We can't be with you guys. You are in charge of yourself. Take care of business.
I agree with that. And that's why some guys come back and you say, wow, you don't look like you've missed a beat. You look like you're ready to roll. And then other guys, you say, no, you've talked about it, but have you actually done it? And when we get to the point where you feel like you got 120 guys all come back looking like, man, you worked your tail off, then we'll be in the position we want to be in.
And, of course, right now, recruiting is always important. But as you try to build up the numbers in the program, it is so important. But it's really challenging right now. How are you handling that?
Well, the biggest thing is continually trying to stay in touch with them on the phone, text messaging, calling, having them call you, trying to follow them, which ones are up, had a good enough opportunity to actually play this fall. Most states got back to where they got some type of games in. So trying to stay with them there. And some states didn't get any. So, some of those are, you feel obviously like, wow, if they were a senior, that's a huge deal losing that game. So, all those games. But the recruiting aspect as a whole is over the last 20 years has changed so much anyway, that now you throw another wrench into it where you're having to Zoom call everybody to show them then and or walk around showing them our facilities, because there's a number of young men that have never been here yet.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And we're going to ask seniors in high school who may or may not have played a season of football to make a decision on a college that they probably have not visited.
Yeah.
And I think it'll have ramifications down the road. A lot of guys will say, hey, I made the wrong decision. I went to school X, and that wasn't the right place. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and that's a hard part, too, because trying to get them to understand that it's about relationships. It's about people. Well, it's a lot easier to get to know somebody and really feel comfortable with somebody when you're having truly in-person conversations with them. And obviously, with the inability to get on the road, from our standpoint, to get out and go into their home or go to their high school and sit and talk just in general, it isn't happening. And then you're correct. There's going to be a bunch of them that maybe have been to a place to see a game, or maybe have been to a place to be on campus or be in Manhattan, as an example, but not to truly go through the facilities and see what the academic situation is and see what the strength and conditioning, the nutritionists, all those types of things. They don't get those opportunities. It'll be interesting.
Also, another kind of pandemic-related question. You guys are in your second year, and you're trying to build up numbers. You're trying to build up experience. You're playing a lot of young guys. And now the season doesn't really count. It counts, but it doesn't count particularly for the players in terms of their eligibility. That almost seems like a blessing, that the guys that you really want to get an extra year of experience are getting it for free.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see just how that all unfolds.
Yeah.
And I don't think, a lot of people have said there was no playbook. There is no playbook for how to handle this pandemic. And so many of the situations that have come up, I don't know if I would have been able to give any great input if the NCAA would have called and asked me what direction or how to handle that. Obviously, if the Big 12 would have said, how are we going to set protocol in place? Boy, obviously they had to do some things as far as getting with the doctors and finding out what was the best way to give us the opportunity. But I sure am glad that, Bob Bowlesby and the Big 12 in general was able to say, hey, we're going to figure out how to at least get our student athletes opportunity to get on the field and play.
It's incredible. You're 7 games in. You haven't missed a week. You came pretty close early in the season. You haven't missed a week, and some Pac-12 universities still haven't stepped on the field. It's been amazing how far ahead of the curve the Big 12 has been.
Yeah, the biggest thing, though, that I think all of our young men have to keep understanding is it's not gone away. It's not gone. Right now it's still out there, so you've got to really be you got to understand that everything you do could have a ramification for the entire program. So all of us got to stay focused and locked in on that. Yeah,
off weeks have been a time that a lot of teams have seen infections go up because guys take their guard down.
Yeah.
So
well, one of the early things that we really had to get our guys to understand is, it's like in the locker room, it's not a safe haven. Meaning, don't ever assume that you're going somewhere where, hey, I can't get anything here, because you happen to be around one person that you had no reason to anticipate they were, contagious, and you let your guard down, and all of a sudden now you are.
And at this point, you get infected at this point, your season's done almost, basically. Yeah. We're in that final stretch.
Yeah.
What can Courtney Messingham do to be a better offensive coordinator?
Well, I think I've got to keep making sure I'm using all the tools that our guys bring to the table. That's one of the things we try extremely hard is to find out what skill sets are of each individual in our program and figure out how to use them to give us the best chance to win. And I've got to keep doing that, especially with, be it injuries, you name it, out for whatever the reason is. You better find that second, third, fourth guy and make sure you're ready to plug him in. And I've got to keep doing a great job with that. And probably the other thing I got to keep doing a really, really good job with is just staying in the moment of worry about getting better tomorrow. Don't worry about what Iowa State brings to the table. Yes, part of that is practicing and getting ready for Iowa State, but it's also just worrying about what's in front of us right now today.
As that game progressed Saturday, I didn't envy you trying to call plays because about the only thing that was consistently working was Will running, which you probably don't want to do as much as he had to. But you were able to build off of that with that that kind of read he was doing, and on the Sammy Wheeler pass, I can't remember if it was a linebacker or safety, you caught him watching the backfield instead of tracking Sammy, and that pieced together really nice. That had to feel good.
Yeah, and we felt like that one thing did set another up. As an example, running some of the speed sweep stuff, whether it was the quarterback keeping it or flashing it to a deuce. And that gave us opportunity to change the eyes a little bit of the defensive backs, and it gave us opportunity to get some big plays. And for us to win football games, really for anybody in the country, you got to take care of the football and you got to have explosives. And we had a number of explosive plays that we've got to keep getting.
Off week, then you go to Ames. Does the Iowa State game mean anything more to you, having been on that staff, been up there?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, having coached there and know a bunch of people there, you want to have bragging rights and you want to win that football game. But the biggest reason that it will mean a lot is for the things that we'd love to have happen. You got to worry about the game that's in front of you, and the Iowa State game is the next one up. And there's a lot of things that are still in play for this entire season. And you don't need to look too far down the road. You need to look at what's coming. But a lot of things that are still in play that all of us would love to achieve.
And in a larger picture, this program is kind of battling Iowa State for the next rung up the ladder. Who's going to be able to consistently climb that ladder and get up into contention with the Big 12? You almost don't want them to have the success. You want to take it from them.
Yeah. Well, there's no doubt that it doesn't matter if it's Iowa State or West Virginia or Texas Tech or, all of us are saying, hey, we need to be the one that's in the national spotlight, the one that that a recruit says, are you kidding me? I'm getting the opportunity to go play at K-State. And we've got to do that by performing on Saturdays and also by making sure we have people in the program that are going to represent us in the right way when it comes to having a young man say, yeah, I want to go to K-State. Because most of the time, not in this setting as much, but most of the time it's getting them on campus and letting your players sell what we are truly all about and the type of people that are in the program.
Well, you got to feel good about it. I mean, you're getting 5 Big 12 wins in the first season. You're on the verge of doing it again in the second season. That's tough. You've been in this conference before. It's tough to get over that 500 mark in this conference and stay there.
Yeah, it is. And people don't realize that, especially in this setting, every single week you better be ready to play. And I mean, people would say, well, this team or that team in the Big 12. No, I'm telling you, college football, all you got to do is just turn it on every weekend and you see people getting knocked off that you're like, wait a minute, how did that happen? Well, it's who's really mentally ready to play and physically you got to go out and perform, but mentally you better be ready to play.
And this year even more. You might have guys just pop up and not be able to play at the last second. It's the way it is. It's 2020, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Coach, I appreciate it a ton. I know that you probably have other things to do than chat with me. I mean, you could have snuck in 9, man.
Yeah.
No, it's getting dark too early.
Yes, it does. Hey, I would appreciate you, and anytime we can do anything for you, please get a hold of me.
Thanks, Mass. I appreciate it very much. I hope you kind of have a better idea now after 30 minutes of hearing Courtney Messingham, why I enjoy him, why I like him. I think he's a really good dude. Does he do everything on offense that I would do? Well, no, but I don't think you want me to be your offensive coordinator. I can guarantee that. No offensive coordinator makes every great play call. And sometimes you're held hostage by the tools you have. And right now, you got to be blunt about it. There's not a lot of tools on the offensive side of the football for Kansas State. It should be a season with a senior quarterback who knows what he's doing, and instead you got a true freshman with a true freshman running back. And even that new tight end, he's injured. A lot of things haven't gone as planned for Kansas State's offense, and yet the team is 4-3. Yet the team is 4-2 in the Big 12. There have been some really notable things that have taken place, and maybe the offense isn't as good as one would want it to be. Be patient. They're going to build up their weapons. If there comes a day when Courtney Messingham has talent arrayed across the field in which he can pick and choose who he wants to use at any given time, and they're still not producing points, then I'll be unhappy. He has what he has, and he's doing what he can do. That's really my best defense of Courtney Messingham, and I'm not even here to defend him. I'm just here to say patience is sometimes better than impatience. And I hope you're being patient as we work our way through the coaching staff. We got a couple more guys to go. A couple more staff members are going to join us as we continue with the Sources Podcast. And if you're not a subscriber to the Powercat Podcast, the daily podcast from GoPowercat.com, make sure you are. If you're a K-State fan, you're going to want to hear from us as often as possible. The Powercat Podcast delivers daily during football season, although this week without a game, we got a couple slots that are open. We'll be back on Wednesday with the original Powercat Podcast, the Questions Podcast. Our subscribers at GoPowercat.com ask us questions, and we answer. Until then, I'm Fitz, and I'll talk to you later.
Powercat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street Publishing.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.